Welcome to your Daily 5 for Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. You may have seen some reporting or some commentary on a study released by Anthropic, who I believe is an AI company themselves, where they apparently ran some type of very specific tests on different models and found that in many cases, actually really, they cite the number 96%, which you would have to say is virtually all cases, that generative models would act in a way that was labeled as unethical in terms of either self-preservation or to achieve certain goals. Meaning, if a model was told that a CEO wanted to have it replaced, it would actually suggest assassinating or killing that CEO. And in other cases, it would blackmail engineers in order to either preserve its existence or to achieve some type of preset goal. And people are ripping their hair out over it. There's all this hysteria. But honestly, this is almost a pointless exercise to me, or at least the way that it's being framed, because they keep using the word ethical, unethical in regards to these models, which makes me think that they don't even have a model that is capable of producing a reliable explanation of what ethics are. Ethics, which are also known as moral philosophies, are made to allow people to make judgments about their actions and their impact on other people. They, by definition, involve the necessity of context, human experience, empathy, sympathy, and judgment. None of these things are anything that any of these models are capable of. This is, again, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, an anthropomorphizing, I think I did it correctly, of these models to a degree that is laughably stupid. It really does start to make you wonder what the competence of the people involved in making these things have when they are so fundamentally misunderstanding what ethics are. You would never describe the actions of an artificial model as ethical or unethical because the term does not apply. Also, ethics are, by their very nature, fluid. They are things that have to be debated and thought about and contextualized. You don't just have yes or no answers to the biggest ethical questions in most cases. Therefore, if you're talking about a machine, which by its very nature has to have terms defined, has to have parameters set, has to ingest things that tell it how to act because it cannot act in its own nature, how could ethics ever apply? Now, maybe I'm getting hung up on words and how they're used here. Maybe that's not the larger point of this. But I think it kind of is. Because again, if the people evaluating and developing these models don't know the basics of the terms they're using, don't understand how those terms could, or in this case, could not possibly apply to the tests that they're performing and the models they're using to perform them, then what confidence can we have that the people in charge of these things really know what they're doing? It really does. This one report or study has really, to me, become one of the bedrock pieces of evidence that, and I've said this before, and many others have said the same thing. The problem is not the tools. The problem is the people with the brains, with the hands on those tools, because they clearly don't know what they're messing with. And I don't think that's going to lead to global Armageddon. This isn't a, oh no type of thing, but it does make you have to look at all this stuff and consider that the people involved, who are supposedly such geniuses of engineering and being able to make such magnificent things, can't grasp the fundamentals of something that's been around since the Greeks, then you do have to start to wonder what the end result of their products are going to be. Not in terms of danger, but in terms of actual usability. It really is just baffling to me because, again, to see the word ethical anywhere in people's reference to generative models is lunacy. They cannot possibly be ethical. Ethics are a fundamentally human concept, and one that requires a living sentient being, and specifically a human one, because there's no reason that even if you thought ethics in machines existed, to assume that their ethics would be the same as ours, because their drives, goals, and inherent programming are completely alien to us. So again, I know to some degree, I've got my hand covering half my face. I am getting somewhat hung up on the word here, but because the words are being used so badly, it just casts doubt on everything else. So are generative models unethical? No, because they can't be ethical to begin with. Later.